you have a really fascinating story about your own breast cancer experience that you've never really told publicly, right?
I have never told publicly. No one, a few friends know.
So this is like the exclusive here.
This is the exclusive.
I can't wait. I know it, but I can't wait for you to tell it.
So I was doing a presentation, keynote on self-esteem. And it was a very kind of precarious situation in which I was doing this presentation. And I just went like this. And I was going off stage and went, oh my God. And one of my friends is a breast surgeon, and so we got in for a mammogram and an ultrasound that same day. The mammogram was negative, and the ultrasound showed a breast mass. And we aspirated it actually that day, and it came back on Friday as invasive ductal.
Mm.
And
It's
I
interesting that you felt it, but the
yeah,
mammogram didn't find it.
fortunately, yeah. If you knew where it was, you could kind of find it on the mammogram if you had to, but it would
Okay.
have been probably as normal.
Yeah. Okay.
And, that begs the whole question about mammograms now, as we know that they're very controversial, unfortunately, at this time, because they aren't as wonderful as we expected them to be.
I want you to talk about that. Let's come back to that.
So we then did the biopsy, came back invasive ductal, and then my daughter was graduating from high school, to wait. I didn't want to do it before her graduation. So she graduated, and then I had the biopsy, and they took a sentinel node. And I had a very rare form of invasive ductal called tubular. And tubular is a type of cancer that's very, very slow growing. And at that point, I made a decision personally that I was not going to see an oncologist and that I was not going to see a radiologist. I knew what was going to be recommended for me was probably radiation.
Mm-hmm.
And probably also tamoxifen, because it was estrogen and progesterone receptor positive. Because I know as much as I do, I did not think that I would be able to protect myself well enough when I went into those appointments, and I would be so fear-based that I decided that I would change my body in such a way that it didn't recognize it anymore.
That's amazing. That's such an amazing point you made. Let me interrupt because it, it's why I say it's amazing to me is that you, being a practitioner in the industry with a vast knowledge of, let's say, integrative and functional medicine and holistic health practices, still didn't feel or were, how do I say this? You were wary of, even with all of your credentials and like ammunition, of still being sucked into a fear-based decision, right?
Right.
And I mean, and hearing you say that surprises me because, and I know it's true, I mean, but that's just a statement to how powerful the fear is in oncology centers. I mean, I call them fear factories, but I mean, for the average person that doesn't know squat, right? I mean, they're going in there. I mean, this is basically, they're like going in there naked. You're going in there with armor on, and you're still like, I don't think I can make it in there.
But I knew enough that I didn't want to put myself in that position, and I had girlfriends with me, and they were just kind of my support network. And I was eating pretty cleanly at the time. I did organic. I brought my kids up on organic food, so I've been eating organically since I was probably in the 70s, so it's a long time. So it wasn't food that needed to change so much. It was really more my emotional outlook. And I was in a very abusive marriage, emotionally abusive marriage. Had been in it for a long time, wanted to stay in it for the kids and all the kind of the wrong reasons.
Understand.
And then made a decision that I just couldn't do that anymore. So a lot of changes were going on. I was in the middle of a horrible lawsuit with one of my patients had one of the tests was interpreted incorrectly by one of the nurses. So I was kind of in that piece of, oh my God, how do I shift this? And fear-based all around me. So it was very clear to me that I needed to make some decisions differently in my world of my intellect and my emotion. And at that time, I also went to the Hoffman Institute. I made a decision that I really wanted to do some more deep work around my childhood, which I'd spent most of my life doing. I've always been curious about how can I really better myself as a person? What do I need to know about my relationship to many different things? So I've always been a seeker of that, and I decided that year that I would do it as well. And that was also transformational for me, about letting go, which is what you're talking about. Forgiveness, about moving on, about understanding that we are our parents oftentimes in terms of the patterns that we have, and how do we then not create relationships that are dysfunctional. So all of that was part of what I did for the work for that year. And then I made a bigger decision, and that is that I had an MRI afterwards, and I had, I think, one mammogram, maybe two mammograms, and that was 2008. So I do regular self-breast exams. I'm pretty conscientious about looking at hormone levels and using nutrients, and when I go out, I'm very careful about how I eat. My friends kind of laugh at me, but that's my stake in the ground of being kind of careful about, I don't do a lot of junk food, and no preservatives, and I'm very clean about sauces, and no gluten in my diet. It's just what I'm choosing to do for myself.
Yeah, and so it's been 8 years, right?
Years.
Congratulations. No recurrence in 8 years is absolutely fantastic.